Guys, this video is not clickbait. What happened after I told you that I destroyed my younger stepsister's Minecraft server was real. She ran away from home, but before that, she was crying, had a complete breakdown, and started threatening me with her boyfriend. Before all of that, she randomly asked me to take off my shorts and t-shirt, which made the whole situation even more confusing and uncomfortable. Then things between me and her became extremely uncomfortable. She got so overwhelmed by the situation that she completely lost control. Eventually, she smashed my computer. That's the short version of what happened. I'll explain everything in much more detail and in the exact order later in the video. Let's start from the very beginning. She suddenly screamed through the entire house that someone had destroyed her Minecraft server. And you already know exactly who did it. Yep, it was me. If you watched the previous video, you already know what happened. I secretly got onto her server and destroyed it without her knowing, but she had absolutely no idea it was me. So when I heard her screaming, I walked into her room and said, "Yeah, that was me." At first, she didn't even believe me. She was like, "There's no way you did that. How did you even get onto my server without me knowing?" So I took her to my room and showed her my computer. Her server was right there on my screen. And that's when everything changed. She suddenly started crying and completely lost her temper. Honestly, it scared me. She was yelling, saying that she hated me and that she was going to tell her new boyfriend about everything. And the crazy part, I didn't even know she had a boyfriend. She kept saying that he was going to deal with me, and at first I thought she was just saying it because she was angry. But then she started showing me pictures of the two of them together. And that's when I realized she was actually serious. I honestly couldn't believe what was happening. What started as a Minecraft prank had suddenly turned into a completely different situation. Honestly, I still don't know what upset her more. The fact that I destroyed her Minecraft server, or the fact that I had actually seen what she was doing on it. And the more I think about it, the less I understand what was going through her head. I looked at her and told her I saw everything. I watched what you were doing yesterday, and I saw what you were doing today. I honestly never expected this from you. I wasn't trying to start another argument. I was just telling her exactly what I had seen. But that somehow made everything even worse. She completely lost her temper. She started crying, raising her voice, and blaming me for everything that was happening. And I was standing there thinking, how did we even get to this point? A few minutes earlier, this was just a Minecraft server. Now we're standing there arguing over everything that happened, and I couldn't even recognize the situation anymore. I tried to explain that I was shocked by what I had discovered and that I never expected to see any of this. But she didn't want to listen. She was too angry. She kept saying that I was the one who caused all of this and that. I was responsible for ruining everything. I honestly didn't know what to say. Then while she was still crying and extremely angry, she suddenly demanded that I take off my t-shirt and shorts. I was completely confused. I just looked at her and thought, what are you doing? I told her that she needed to calm down, because none of this was making any sense anymore. I wasn't going to make the situation worse. I just wanted her to stop, take a breath, and think about what was actually happening. But she was still extremely emotional. She kept arguing with me, kept crying, and kept blaming me. At that point, I realized that talking wasn't going to solve anything. Every sentence I said seemed to make the situation even more intense. So I decided that the best thing I could do was simply leave the room. I didn't want to keep arguing with her. I didn't want her to get even more upset. And honestly, I didn't know what she might do next if the argument continued. So I walked out. I gave her some space and eventually decided to leave the house completely. I went outside and just started walking. I wasn't trying to go anywhere specific. I just needed some time to clear my head. I walked roughly a kilometer away from the house and stayed there for about an hour. During that time, I kept thinking about everything that had happened. I kept asking myself how something that started with Minecraft could turn into such a huge argument. I also kept thinking about whether destroying her server was actually worth all of this. Maybe I should have expected her to be angry, but I definitely didn't expect things to go this far. At the same time, I knew she was extremely angry with me and probably didn't want to see me anymore at that moment. So I thought giving her some time alone was probably the right decision. Maybe if I stayed away for a while, she would calm down. Maybe she would think about everything that happened. Maybe when I came back, we could finally talk normally instead of screaming at each other. I honestly didn't know. All I knew was that I needed to get away from the situation for a little while. And while I was walking, I couldn't stop thinking about one thing. What was going to happen when I finally came back? Because after everything that had already happened that day, I had a feeling the story wasn't over yet. Not even close. She was crying and extremely angry. And at one point, she even demanded that I take off my t-shirt and shorts. I was completely confused and told her to calm down. So after being away from the house for about an hour, I finally decided that it was probably time to go back. Honestly, by that point, I thought things had probably calmed down. I had given her enough time to cool off, and I assumed that when I came back, everything would be much quieter. I wasn't expecting anything crazy. I wasn't expecting another argument. I definitely wasn't expecting what I was about to see. I opened the door and walked inside. The first thing I noticed was how quiet the house was. Way too quiet. I called her name. Nothing. I waited for a few seconds and called again. Still nothing. At first, I thought maybe she was just in another room. So I started looking around. I checked one room. Nothing. Then another. Still nothing. I walked through the house, checking everywhere I could think of. The kitchen empty. The living room empty. Another room. Nobody. And then I went into her room. She wasn't there either. At that moment, I started getting a really strange feeling, because I knew she had been extremely angry before I left. I knew she was emotional, and I knew she probably wanted to be alone. So initially, I thought maybe she had simply gone somewhere to calm down. But the more rooms I checked, the more obvious it became that she wasn't actually in the house. And that's when I started thinking, wait a second, where did she go? I checked again. Maybe I had simply missed her. Maybe she was outside. Maybe she was somewhere nearby. But no, there was absolutely nobody. And then I remembered what had happened before I left. She had been extremely angry. She had been crying. She had been yelling. And I knew she was upset with me. So I started wondering if she had actually left because of everything that happened. But I still didn't know. I didn't want to immediately assume the worst. I thought maybe she would come back after a little while. So I decided to go to my room. And this is where everything got even worse. I opened the door and just froze. I genuinely didn't know what I was looking at for a few seconds. My monitor was completely destroyed. And I'm not talking about a small crack or some accidental damage. It looked like someone had deliberately smashed it. There were clear marks from a hammer. The monitor was basically ruined. And I just stood there staring at it. I couldn't believe it. I remember thinking, wait, what happened here? Then I looked at my computer. At first, the computer itself was still standing where I had left it. But when I looked more closely, I saw the damage. The back of the computer had also been hit. Again and again. It looked like someone had intentionally attacked it with a hammer. And at that moment, everything started making sense. She had done this. I couldn't think of anyone else who could have done it. And honestly, I was shocked. Completely shocked. I knew she was angry. I knew she was upset. But I never thought she would actually go that far. I just stood there looking at my destroyed monitor and computer, trying to understand why she had done it. And the thing that bothered me the most wasn't even just the fact that my equipment was broken. It was the reason behind it. Why? Why would she do this? If she was angry with me, why couldn't we just talk about it? If she thought I had done something wrong, why couldn't she tell me? If she wanted me to stop doing something, why couldn't she simply explain that? There were so many other ways this could have been handled. But instead, she chose to destroy my stuff. And that honestly made me feel terrible. Because I never expected that kind of reaction. I was already feeling guilty about what had happened with her Minecraft server. I knew destroying it had made her extremely angry. But I never thought the situation would turn into this. I looked at the monitor again. I looked at the computer. And I just couldn't believe that this had actually happened. It felt completely unreal. I started thinking that maybe she had done it because she wanted to make sure. I understood how angry she was. Maybe she wanted me to realize that she didn't want me going onto her server again. Maybe, in her mind, destroying my computer was some kind of punishment. But even if that was the reason, this wasn't the way to solve the problem. Breaking someone's stuff doesn't fix anything. It doesn't make the original problem disappear. It just creates another problem. And now we had something much bigger to deal with. Because when I looked around the house again, she was still gone. I started thinking that maybe she had simply gone outside. Maybe she was walking somewhere. Maybe she needed some time alone. So I waited and waited. But she didn't come back. At first, I wasn't too worried. I thought, okay, she'll probably come back soon. Maybe she just needed to cool down. Maybe she went somewhere nearby. Maybe she would return later that evening. But then time started passing, and she still wasn't coming home. That's when I started getting genuinely concerned. I kept checking the door. Every time I heard something outside, I thought it might be her, but it wasn't. I kept thinking that maybe she would suddenly walk through the door and everything would go back to normal. But that didn't happen. And then one day passed, then another. And eventually, 5 days had gone by. 5 days, and she still hadn't come back. At that point, this wasn't just about Minecraft anymore. It wasn't about the server. It wasn't about my computer. It wasn't even about our argument anymore. We didn't know where she was. I started asking myself where she could possibly have gone. Maybe she had gone somewhere she knew. Maybe she was staying somewhere else. Maybe she simply needed time away from everyone. But we didn't know. And that's what made it so difficult. We started asking around. Different people were contacted. We tried to find out if anyone had seen her. We checked different places. We tried to figure out where she could have gone. But there was still no clear answer. Nothing. No useful information. And the longer it continued, the more worried I became. Because I kept going back to that moment when I came home. The empty rooms. Her empty room. The destroyed computer. The broken monitor. And then the realization that she wasn't coming back. I couldn't stop thinking about the fact that the last time I saw her, she was extremely angry. She was crying. She was upset. And then suddenly, she was gone. It all happened so quickly. That's probably the part that scares me the most. One moment she was there, the next moment, she wasn't. And now we were trying to understand what had happened. I also kept thinking about whether I could have done something differently. Maybe I shouldn't have destroyed the server. Maybe I shouldn't have told her everything at that moment. Maybe I should have handled the whole situation differently. I don't know. I'm not saying that what happened to my computer was okay. It wasn't. And destroying someone's stuff is never a good way to deal with anger. But at the same time, when someone suddenly disappears after such an intense argument, you can't just ignore it. You start thinking about everything. Every conversation. Every decision. Every little detail. And that's exactly what I was doing. I kept replaying the whole situation in my head. I kept asking myself, where did she go? Why did she leave so suddenly? Where could she be staying? And most importantly, when is she coming back? At this point, I honestly don't have the answers. That's why I want to ask you guys something. If you were in my position, what would you do? Would you keep trying to find out where she went? Would you give her some space? Would you try to contact her again? Or would you simply wait and see if she comes back on her own? And if you have any reasonable ideas about where she could have gone in a situation like this, tell me in the comments. maybe someone watching this will have an idea that we haven't thought about yet. Because right now, we genuinely don't know what to do. And I never thought this whole Minecraft situation would turn into something like this. It started with me secretly joining her server. Then I saw things I never expected to see. Then I destroyed the server. Then she found out. Then everything turned into an argument. And now, 5 days have passed, and she's still not home. I'm still sitting here looking at my broken monitor and my damaged computer, trying to understand how everything got this far. And honestly, I don't even care about the computer as much anymore. I just want to know where she is. I want to know that she's okay. I want to know what happened after she left. Because until we actually know where she is and what happened, there's no way for me to stop thinking about it. So please, if you have any ideas, leave them in the comments. And tell me honestly, what would you do if you were in my position? Because right now, I genuinely don't know what the right decision is. And after everything that's happened, I have a feeling this story is far from over. And with that, my story comes to an end. For now, I honestly don't know what is going to happen next, or whether I should make another video about this situation. What do you think? Who was actually right and who was wrong? Do you think I went too far by destroying her Minecraft server? Or do you understand why I did it? And most importantly, do you think there should be a continuation? Leave your questions and your opinions in the comments. I'll try to answer as many of them as I can, and if you want to see what happens next, let me know in the comments. That's it for this video. See you in the next one. Or maybe there won't be a next one. Bye!